this is a developing situation, obviously, and it will keep developing. This Indian concept of, let's say, that the foreign forces should not be there in the Indian Ocean, or let's say, as they say, that there should be no foreign navies in the Indian Ocean. This has been their stance since ages. Right, Admiral, you will know it better from the Panikkar books, that he said that the Indian Ocean should be free, and by free, they said the Indian Ocean should be purely the Indian controlled ocean. So that has been going on since long, and they would still like to. But after the end of Cold War, they modified their stance of this, because at that time, when it was during the Cold War, they didn't want any foreign forces to be there. But after the Cold War, when they got very close to Americans, and the American forces were already present over here, so they wanted to take advantage of that also. Then Admiral Mahir Roy, he is on record writing many, in others also writing, that it is all right for the foreign forces to be here if they are doing the positive thing. That is, rather than the, especially in the Gulf, rather than the influence, increasing influence of the states they mentioned, within the, meaning they meant Pakistan, that they should be having more influence in the Gulf. So this will be there again now, because the Americans are pushing the Indians, or supporting the Indians to be the so-called net security provider in the region, and so they will like to have this leadership role and to control the Indian Ocean. As the Australian writers wrote, that Indians would like to convert the Indian Ocean to be India's ocean. So singularly for India and not for others, and whatever they want to do. So they will always try these hegemonic designs, and and all others, China exclusive, of course, because China has a lot of interest now here, and of course Pakistan. We should be careful about whatever developments are taking place in this field. Coming to a few portions that we talked about, of course, Dr. Malia mentioned in detail about the various aspects of the maritime Silk Route. And Dr. Atal mentioned about the North Sea route and the polar area. North Sea route, although as he rightly mentioned, it is still in paperwork, you can say, but it is not completely in paper so far. The traffic has already started, but very limited, and only in about 1.5 to 2 months summer times. There have been ships which have already used this route, and they are still using this. So this, in case this global warming and the melting of the Arctic, etc., takes place faster, then these things will be faster. Yes, it is still very limited, dependent on the icebreakers and all, but because whatever is the most cost-effective thing, that is what will happen. Whether it is the use of icebreakers, etc., which at present is not the most economic thing, as you gave the figures also, how many dollars per ton. But if it becomes more economical or economically feasible, it will be used. Similarly, like the Suez Canal, because it cut short the distance and it made it more feasible economically, so it was used. But then the sizes of the ships started increasing. Suez Canal initially was only for use up to 5,000 ton ships. And when the ships' tonnage started increasing, so the Suez Canal had to widen itself and deepen itself to remain effective. Otherwise, the longer route through the Cape of Good Hope would have been economical because of the economy of scale. So they had to adopt accordingly. Even Panama had to increase their size because of the same thing. So whatever is in the most cost-effective or most economically benefit to any country, so commercial entities will use the same route. So the northern route also will depend on the same thing, whichever is the cost-effective thing that will be used, but probably not in the near future. And our speaker from Malaysia had mentioned about the Chinese island chains, the first island chain and the second island chain and all. These are not new concepts which have been developed over here. These concepts, first island chain and second island chain, etc., they used to be discussed, and my friend Foom will be better informed about it. Admiral Liu Huacheng, who was a former naval chief of China, and then he went up to become the vice chairman of the Central Military Commission, and also the member of the Executive Committee of Politburo, a great man, great thinker and maritime expert. He explained all these things, wrote that previously, prior to 1980, China was basically a land-oriented country only. They hardly saw towards the seaward. And they thought that within their own country, that is what they should be used. But then they started slowly and to have their interest protected outward. So they said, okay, initially the first island chain, gradual thing. But now, of course, China is a global player and its interests are globally, all over the seas. So its trade is probably the maximum. So it has to protect its trade and to ensure that all these things go on. China has developed or is trying to develop or help develop these ports, as they all mentioned. But the anti-China forces, led by the Indians, who keep raising various or keep coining various phrases, they coined this word of string of pearls strategy, that the Chinese are making this string of pearls, various ports, etc., which are basically naval ports. These are not naval ports. They are, as it has been mentioned, that they are the various ports which are commercially viable for China to ensure their trade throughout, whether it is Gwadar or so far in Gwadar, most of us have visited that and seen this, there is nothing except the commercial activity or the commercial development of the port that is taking place. Pakistan Navy, as far as that is concerned, Pakistan Navy has been there even before the development of the port, in the light from the 70s. So, but any Chinese involvement or any Chinese military development over there, etc., so far, no, can't see anything, not even in the plans. Similarly, Hambantota and the rest of the port, they are commercial ports. So, but the anti-China forces, or the, let's say, anti-China and anti-Pakistan forces, they keep coining these terms, which become very catchy, and people start using them. So Chinese, in my humble opinion, approach so far is, and as Mr. Ku also mentioned, that they never attacked any other country so far, and their approach is peaceful coexistence, as mentioned earlier also, and to have a competitive approach. Competitive if they are developing all these infrastructure, etc., in other countries, and if they are of course, all these infrastructure developments, etc., will have greater influence. So, but influence through the development in other countries rather than the influence through the use of military force, these are two different approaches. And I think the Chinese approach is much better, as far as my opinion is concerned. Maybe I am biased. I have been in Mr. Fu's country for 3 years, so that may be an opinion. But that is what my opinion. Thank you.